How does your media product represent particular social groups? Narrative plot, characters and storyline. The plot of our media product is based around the narrative plot of a murder investigation. The plot of two murder detectives are investigating the mysterious death of a protagonist character, who are then killed while investigating this mysterious inquiry. Our media product represents different social groups, but mainly focuses on the life of teenagers, covering aspects of a teenager's life as they experiment into seeking new emotions and feelings as they investigate the mysterious murder in Clockhouse Gardens. Gender roles. An archetype suggests that male characters possess the dominant authority and power over female characters. Traditionally, men have held power in our society, also known as patriarchy, exaggerating the idea that male qualities and attributes are seen to be superior to female attributes, whereas our media product defies this archetype and uses a countertype that the antagonist characters are young females. Our media product represents the female social group as a group with significance and power, defying the stereotype of a young girl being vulnerable as they tackle a mysterious murder case. The male characters are then used for diegetic dialogue scenes where the teenage social group all meet. We defy the natural stereotype and the natural representations of the horror genre in order to attract a wider target audience and engage our viewers in the narrative plot. Characters. Zoe White, a middle-class, fairly tall blonde 17-year-old. Age 17. We choose this age as it fits the natural representation of the horror genre, as a young, attractive blonde girl is being portrayed as being vulnerable and in need of protection. Teenage characters are usually conveyed as vulnerable and innocent in horror movies, which adds to the suspense of the film's narrative plot. The female gender characters are stereotypically used in horror movies as they are often portrayed as stupid. This helps to build suspense in the audience as their behaviour often puts the audience on edge. We used our research of the horror movie Scream, as the young antagonist female character is portrayed as extremely vulnerable, which engages the audience and builds an emotional connection, adding to the fright of the movie. The character also helps to appeal to a wider male audience as it fits the ideology of the perfect girl, tall, blonde, blue eyes. The white British ethnicity often represents the majority, in which horror films often represent the majority in order to appeal to its widest audience. The horror films we researched, such as Scream, Blade, Paranormal Activity, all had white British or American characters. This helped us to decide to fit the natural representation to ensure our film matched and engaged the audience expectation. Social group stereotypes. The Tessa Perkins theory identifies 5 theories that challenge the assumption of a stereotype. These include stereotypes are not always negative. They are not always minority groups or less powerful. They can be held about one's group. They are not rigid or unchanging, and they are not always false. We use Perkins' theory of they are not always minority groups or less powerful to portray to our audience that stereotypes can be defied and are not always negative. We use 2 female characters as our antagonist characters, which shows female quality and that stereotypes can change. The Hedbighi theory argues that the representation of youth is very limited, suggesting media's representation of youth is not reality. Our short movie represents the youth in a positive light, showing not only that youths can have fun and enjoy their life, but also have a purpose, in this case solving a mysterious murder. Finally, a theory that was Gerbiner's cultivation theory suggests that the media overestimates crime, therefore influencing the perception of crime in society. This shows that youths are always the victims of being involved in criminal activity through many different media platforms. Therefore, we defied this perception in our short movie by showing the youth characters as the detectives in solving the crime instead of being part of the criminal activity. Ultimately, many different media theories represent the youth generation as troubled and in an extremely negative light. Therefore, we decided to change this stereotype and portray the youth in a positive light, changing the audience perception of youngsters in the current generation.